Giggab, episode 509 for Monday, November 24th. National Celebrate Your Unique Talent Day 2025. Yeah, why not? We all have unique talents. Some more valuable than others.
Not everyone.
Not everybody. Some people are more unique than others. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Giggab, the show by, for, and about working musicians. Here, as usual, in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton, and today we get to welcome somebody who's been in the room for some of the most meaningful moments in modern music history. My guest co-host is the writer, documentarian, longtime Brian Wilson collaborator, whose work has shaped how the world understands not just the Beach Boys, but the human beings behind all of those songs. He wrote the original liner notes for Brian Wilson's Live at the Roxy back in 2000, and he has returned for its 25th anniversary reissue with new reflections and some new thoughts. It's true, he's worked with lots of other people. The rock doc extraordinaire is with us today. David Leaf, welcome to Giggab.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here with you virtually, because it's a lot warmer here than where you are.
You have that correct, my friend. Yeah, it's starting to get cold in New Hampshire now. We had a nice extended summer, and then that ended a few days ago. So it's fine. It's all good. Yeah. I thank you for doing this. You've been you're reading all of this stuff and digging back into the Brian Wilson at the Roxy and all the other things you've done. It's really, those recordings are pretty special. We can start in a lot of different places, but we're here talking about the Roxy, so let's talk about this. What you were there? What was it like? And you were there in the rehearsals leading up to it for a little bit too, correct?
Right. Well, when Brian went on tour in 1999, which is really the Roxy show is kind of the exclamation point,
right,
on his first year of touring. It lets those of the people who didn't get to see those, I think there were 16 shows in 1999. This allows you to hear Brian Wilson as he's beginning really this amazing second act renaissance of his career. And so I was there in 1999 for all the shows, which it didn't begin well necessarily. I remember he was in Chicago rehearsing with the band, and my late wife and I were in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, where we lived, and we got a call from Brian, and he said, I need you guys to come out here. And what he was saying was, I need friends in the room. Everybody else is working, musicians, tech. He just wanted like a cheerleading squad. Some people the thing with Brian was that he needed to be loved unconditionally, and so we were there as his friends and got to witness this remarkable rebirth, because no one ever thought he would become a solo concert performer. It was not on anybody's radar. I
don't think it was on his radar, correct?
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so in 98, when he did the Imagination album, his second solo album, it was like, okay, how are we going to promote this?
Yeah.
Brian, how about doing some shows? And it started with 4 shows in the Midwest in what was still winter, because I was the driver. Brian was up front with me, and our wives were in the back in this giant SUV, and the band was in a bus where the heating broke down. Oh. And any of you who have lived in cold weather or been in cold weather know what it means to be it's like being on a school bus when the heating doesn't work.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so Brian, once he got the hang of it, and he got it really quickly. From those first 4 shows, it started in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and by the 4th show, he had significantly improved his game, while everybody in the band was getting the flu and getting sick. And then there was a Northeast swing, including New York and the Beacon Theater, which, for Brian, the 2 biggest cities of his fandom would be New York and London.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
And so it was a big deal that he was playing New York. I grew up in New York, so many people I knew were there,
Sure.
including one 20-year-old who came up to me and said, "Mr. Leaf, I just got a copy of your book." He was referring to my first book, The Beach Boys in California Myth. He said, "I got it on eBay for $200
Oh,
or $500. I forget what number." And out of my mouth, he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
yeah. Yeah.
And ultimately led to getting it reissued, as God only knows, a few years ago. Anyway, Brian's shows got better and better and better. After those first 2 4-show things in the States, we went to Japan for 4 shows, which were just remarkable because the Japanese appreciate artistry in a way that most other countries don't.
Interesting.
And
What?
then back to the States for 4 more shows, and ending the year at Neil and Peggy Young's Bridge School benefit, which
Okay.
was really remarkable because there's Brian on a stage. He wasn't playing now to 2,000 or 3,000 seats. It was 20,000 seats and more.
Right. Yeah.
And Neil was on the bill, and Pete Townsend and the Who were on the bill. So suddenly, okay, I got to up my game.
And he
did.
rose to that challenge. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, one of the great moments. I mean, you talk about, you're talking to musicians on your show.
Yeah.
I'm not a musician. So I wish I were a musician.
Yeah, but you have a way of don't sell yourself short. You're doing fine here because you have a way of telling people, teaching people, communicating about musicians that really respects the musicianship of what they do. Like you have an appreciation for this musicianship, and you're able to communicate that. So you're doing fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I knew nothing about any of this in terms of how it really worked.
Sure.
When I first moved to Los Angeles, if this isn't too much of a digression,
we love tangents here. It's all good.
I was hired. I was working in television as a gopher, a production assistant, and I got hired on a show called Sinatra and Friends.
Okay.
And I remember the producer, Paul Keyes, saying to me, "Come on, kid, we're going to go over to rehearsal." I was so naive, I didn't even know they rehearsed television shows.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, we drive onto the Burbank Studios lot. We park in his special producer's spot. We walk into this giant soundstage, and over in the corner is the Nelson Riddle Orchestra, and Nelson Riddle and Mr. Sinatra. And we take 2 folding chairs, and we sit about 10 or 15 feet away from this. And Mr. Keyes says hello to Mr. Sinatra. "You ready for us to go?" And Paul says yes. Nelson hits the downbeat, and they began doing a song. I don't remember whether it was "I've Got You Under My Skin," but it was a Sinatra classic.
Sure.
And within 30 seconds, what went through my head was, well, when I was a kid, I played trumpet a little bit, but I sure don't play like those guys.
Yeah, right.
Then the next thing was, I sing. I love to sing. I even very briefly had a group called David Leaf and the Twigs.
That's clever. Okay, so singers are musicians too. The voice is an instrument.
It is. I got it. And the next thought was, right now I might be in the coolest place in the universe. I'm getting a private concert from Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
And the last thought was, this is where I want to be. What do I need to do to earn my place in this room?
Huh. I like that.
And I watched what the producer did. And when the show was over and it was finished and it was edited, I realized that really what he had done was he was like a museum curator. He had taken this piece of art, put a frame around it, and hung it on a wall in the form of a television show. And I thought, yes, I could do that. I could do that. Now, where I had the confidence or overconfidence or arrogance to think I could,
it doesn't matter. You did.
I did. And through the years, I've gotten to work with a staggering litany of artists, especially people like the Bee Gees and Jimmy Webb, and it's just the list goes on and on and on. And
Yeah.
in the last 15 years, I've been teaching at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music,
Mm.
bringing my experience to 20-year-olds who I teach a course called the Reel Beatles, REEL, about how we experience the Beatles.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about that. Okay.
I teach a course called Docs That Rock, Docs That Matter. I teach rock music history through the documentary form. I've made a few of them,
Yeah.
and so Brian Wilson is what brought me to California, and in '71, my roommate and I became obsessed with Brian, and there were no rabbit holes to go down, no webs to search, but we were obsessed,
Okay.
and I said, something is wrong here. Everything I'm reading, there's something that just doesn't strike me as right. I had heard an album called Surf's Up, and the last two songs are Till I Die and Surf's Up, which are on, Till I Die is on live at the Roxy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never thought we'd see him do that song live.
Was that a request? Did you add that to the? Did you suggest that for the set list? Perhaps.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
Darian Sahanaja was really the musical director.
Got it.
Who made sure that the band played with enormous integrity. He and his partner Nick Walusko and the Wondermints were part of the band, and I mean Nick took it to the level of, and this your audience will understand, when they were doing Brian Wilson Presents Smile, he wasn't just, okay, what notes did the guitar play? He wanted to know what guitar was used, what the setting was on the amp, etc. He really, they were devoted in a way that it was staggeringly beautiful to watch. Anyway, my roommate was like, in college, was like, if this is bugging you so much, why don't you do something about it?
Okay.
And I said, okay, I'm going to move to California, write a book about Brian, become his friend, and help him finish Smile. Which if the school psychologist had heard that, they might have said, we need to put David in for 72-hour observation.
Yeah, that's right. There's a 3-day hold. That's right. Yeah.
It's certifiably insane. But
what an amazing! But you did it. Like, that's that bravado. That's that confidence that sometimes fuels us through life. Like it is the thing. You believe you can do it, and you ignore the naysayers, and you do it anyway, even though you know that they're right. Part of what the naysayers are saying is self-reflection, right? They're saying, I couldn't do what he's saying he's going to do, but there's part of it. There's a smaller piece, but it's still part of it that's saying, I'm not sure anybody can do that. It doesn't matter who you are, and that's the part that you have to ignore.
Yeah, my students ask me, where I got the confidence to do what I did, and I sort of joke. I say, when I was 5 years old, my parents told me I was special, and I believed them. And
yes,
I just never doubted. And I wasn't in California 36 hours when I was walking north on 5th Street in Santa Monica, and Dennis Wilson's walking south towards me. And I walked up to him and I said, "Hi." I was nervy. "Hi, Dennis. My name is David Leaf. I just moved to California to write a book about your brother." And he just laughed. He thought it was one of the funniest things he'd ever heard. Good, it was like good luck, and he went into a building which I later found out was Brother's studio, where I got to spend some time with him and the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
It was.
Did you once you were sort of in the camp there? Did you remind him of this? Did you of this interaction?
I don't think there was any reason to ever remind anybody.
Okay.
But I can say that honestly, 3 years from the day of that conversation, my first book was in bookstores.
Wow.
And
yeah, that's tenacity.
It had nothing to do with that conversation. It had to do with, you can't climb Mount Everest unless you go to the Himalayas, right? You gotta
Right.
go. You gotta go there. So,
Yes.
so just the sheer act of moving to California set this all in motion.
I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Those changes that we make to sort of force ourselves to take the opportunity for the next path. Yeah.
And so
Love that.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I just kept moving forward, and one thing led to another, and I did become Brian's friend, and I became his good friend, and we were friends. We were not collaborators musically.
Right.
He bugged me forever to write lyrics for his songs because he knew I could write.
Sure.
And in fact, at one point in the mid '90s, I said it was bugging me so much. I said, "Okay, Brian, who do you want me to call? You want me to call Tony Asher? You want me to call Van Dyke Parks?" He said, "Call Tony." So I called Tony, and Tony came over, and within like 2 days, they had written 2 new songs, one of which is on the Roxy box set.
Amazing.
So anyway, he trusted me.
Yes.
Which
Yeah. Clearly. Yeah.
With the ultimate compliment. And I made him laugh, which was really important. And for you singers out there, Brian loved to do what was called casual singing. So when we would drive to dinner, the radio would be tuned to K-Earth, which was the oldies station.
Okay.
And we'd be singing along to the oldies. So does it get any better than singing along to the oldies with Brian Wilson? I don't think so.
Dude, that's pretty special. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really like what going to see him in concert was. He wasn't doing all oldies, but the audience was hearing songs that they knew and loved, performed with loving care by this amazing band, and Brian enjoying himself singing them. And a lot of them were deep cuts that had never been performed by the Beach Boys.
Right. No, yeah. You're right. That whenever Brian performed, I got to see him. I only got to see him once, but it was with his when he toured with the Beach Boys most recently, which wasn't that recent. I think it was about 15 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that.
You saw the 50th anniversary tour.
The 50th anniversary tour.
12,
Yeah. And it was clear that there was a lot of heart in that, and I will never forget the moment of being there. We took my dad and his wife, and then my wife and our 2 kids, and the 6 of us there in 3 generations, arm in arm, singing, all of us singing Sloop John B together. I mean, it's exactly what you're talking about. We were singing this with them. It was, and they were singing it with us.
Yeah,
it was,
I came up with a phrase a number of years ago. It was like going to the church of Brian Wilson.
Yeah. And not in a that's.
Well, it's. I'll say it's a cult, and I'm the leader of the cult.
Yeah, sure.
In one way, but we were all, in one way or another, we had all fallen deeply in love with this music, and that brought us together in ways that no one could have predicted. And Darian Sahanaja was in high school when he heard when the Endless Summer album came out, which was a Capitol's umpteenth reissue of Greatest Hits. He thought it was a new record.
Yeah.
And he just loved it. And a few years later, he read my book, and he read about Smile. Now, those are all wonderful moments, but if he didn't have these incredibly long fingers that allowed him to make these unbelievably complex chords, none of it would matter.
Oh, interesting.
But he also is he and Probin Gregory and Nick Walusko from the Wonderments and Mike D'Amico, they had the heart to play with him and not just support him musically, but personally and emotionally. They gave him, Probin Gregory, these guys gave him this unconditional love I talked about before.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, the story's been told many different ways and much of those by you, but about the creation of Smile and what it took, and you just summed it all up. It was that unconditional, the talent, obviously, of the people that he found, because that was part of the issue of why that album couldn't happen initially with the Beach Boys. It was just he was asking too much of everyone. But
to be fair, the Beach Boys sang spectacularly beautifully on the Smile sessions. Nobody ever sang like that.
No,
Brian's band never could that harmonic blood harmony.
The blood harmonies. No, you're not going to duplicate that.
You can't do that.
No,
but there was no pushback. There was no like, this is weird lyrics or anything like that. These people were devoted to Brian, and it started before Brian even went on tour. He saw them at a benefit concert, and by a group called Wild Honey, named after Brian's albums, and he said, "Boy, if I'd had this group back in '67, I could have taken Smile on the road."
That's all it takes. That's what it takes.
Because they weren't performing a bunch of Smile songs, although they were doing music from that era, but they were performing it with such care. Every note, every chord, they had just spent so much time listening and making sure they had the right blend vocally and the right instruments and the right chords and the right changes, and so he recognized it, and that's what he responded to. So when he started touring live in 1999, that was in place. So by the time they got to the Roxy, he was already doing jokes on stage. I mean,
so he was truly that was the back half of the tour there. So
it's really the end of this first year of touring, because then they went on to do Pet Sounds Live, which
that's right,
nobody ever expected to see happen. But that's how much confidence he had in this band, and he knew that they would get it right.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
And you could hear two of the instrumentals from Pet Sounds on this Live at the Roxy box. It's okay. Is that the album? No, it's not the album.
No, they are so well done. It's interesting, and I want to talk about the Beatles. I'll share why. Who? What's this? Was it Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings? I'll teach you about it later. But I have been. Our schedules came together very, very quickly for me. Usually I have a week or two. This happened all in a very compressed period of time. And the last two nights, I have spent a total of 8 hours rehearsing all Beatles songs for a gig that I'm doing next week, sort of a celebration of the Beatles gig that we do the night before Thanksgiving. We did it last year too, and it's wonderful. But I've been immersed in, not just I'm a drummer as well as a singer, and so immersed in not just getting the songs right and kind of relearning some of these songs or rediscovering some of these songs that I'd never played or sang live before. And then, of course, the balance of, I call it head and heart when putting all these harmonies together with the Beatles too, because you've got to get it right enough so that it's so that it's in tune and it's correct, but it also needs to be delivered with heart. If you're too in your head, it doesn't work. And our first rehearsal, the first night, I left it and I thought, we should cancel this. Like, this is going to be terrible. Really, I really did. I got, and then after last night's rehearsal, it was like, okay, well, all is forgiven. Obviously, it all came together, and we moved it from our heads to our hearts. And so I've been immersed in it. My head's been in this zone. And then this morning I thought, okay, I need to re-listen to the 25th anniversary, edition of Live at the Roxy before we do this. I'd heard it before, but and I couldn't afford to be listening to anything other than the Beatles for the last 2 days. So now that I'm out of these rehearsals, I feel confident. We have another rehearsal and then the gig next week. It's like, okay, I can do this. And I turned it on. It was like, oh man, okay. The Beatles stuff, there's some intricate things. There's some complex things. but it's nothing compared to even the simplest, the most straight ahead of Brian Wilson's harmony arrangements. And I love that.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, Brian was coming from jazz.
Yes.
He had spent years dissecting the four freshmen and the high-low vocal arrangements. So that's so he combined rock and roll with that.
Yeah.
And so it can't feel like the Beatles.
No, it's they're two different things, and they are both wonderful. Yes.
To give you an idea of how sweet and modest he is, when Pet Sounds came out, he got a call from London, from John and Paul, telling him how much they loved the album. And that meant the world to him.
I bet. Yeah.
Because the record company didn't like the album, the group was not 100% behind it. So you've got a guy who's, they didn't use the word artist in those days. It said recording artists at the record company or whatever, but they didn't really think of them as artists.
That's not. Yeah.
Can you churn out another album before Christmas, basically?
Song monkeys is really what they were treated like. Yes.
We have sales quotas to meet.
That's right.
Can you get to work? So his relationship with Sir Paul McCartney is a very special one. They were born 2 days apart, the same month, the same year. I mean, it's just remarkable.
It's uncanny, I know.
They're the bass playing songwriters from groups that begin with the letters BEA, both signed to either EMI or an EMI subsidiary. I mean, it doesn't make any real sense when there's no conspiracy involved.
No, there couldn't possibly be between London and the United States, California. Yeah.
But his relationship with Sir Paul, and the reason I bring it up is that when I was interviewing Sir George Martin for a project, he referred to Sgt. Pepper as the Beatles' accent on the word attempt, to equal Pet Sounds.
It's funny. We were saying that we are doing pretty much all of Sgt. Pepper to open the show, and most of Abbey Road to end the show, and then some other things in the middle. And that's the part that's been interesting, is digging into Sgt. Pepper. It's like, okay, yeah, this is more complex than the other things for sure. It's wannabe Beach Boys. But I say that with love for both artists, both bands.
What
yes.
Sounds, somebody said Pet Sounds was Liberation Day for rock and roll.
Well, Pet Sounds used the recording studio as its own instrument in a sense, right. and
so that's correct. So what's
and so did Sgt. Pepper. I mean that's for sure the Beatles used it that way, and Sir George Martin with them.
Well, they started with Revolver.
Yes, for sure. It wasn't the first time, but they really dug in with that. So
what was so amazing about Brian's band is that if you look at Brian's recordings from 65, 66, that golden era, he had a group of musicians recording the tracks, and then he had the Beach Boys as his vocal instrument. And here on Live at the Roxy, you have his band doing both live at the same time.
Right.
Pretty flawlessly.
Yes.
With feeling and heart and joy.
All right, so I have a question, because I had a moment this morning that was a really, really emotional moment. I'd certainly heard Live at the Roxy before. The nuances of it had left my brain, and then I re-listened today. And disc 2 starts with some band introductions, and then as you hear Brian sing, there's already a little rhythm and harmonic structure set up, and Brian starts singing over it, and he starts singing the Bare Naked Ladies, Brian Wilson, with some adapted lyrics. And I think it's because the Bare Naked Ladies was a band that my daughter from birth liked. There was certain music that we could play and she would stop screaming, and then there was other music that we would play and she would start screaming. James Taylor was on the other side of this and remains that way to this day, even though she's in her mid-20s now.
She'd be
But
singing over it.
but but Bare Naked Ladies was a band that she really got into, and so that band has kind of been infused in our family. Beach Boys, of course, Beatles, other bands infused in our sort of family, dynamic. And when I heard that today, there was this dichotomy in my head. It was like, I know both of these things, but I've never put them together. I know I've heard it before, but it didn't register for me in the past the way that it did today. And it was this really, it was fascinating to experience. I went back and listened to it a couple times to get as much out of it as I could. But it's a wonderful little moment with him singing an adaptation of the lyrics, because he's singing them from his point of view, which is awesome. And then, of course, the band singing the harmonies for him, and then transitioning into all this other stuff with a perfect modulation out of it, by the way. How did that? Do you know how that moment came together?
I think that was Darian's idea.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Brian was aware of the song.
Of course.
What happens when you're famous?
Right.
I'm
Right.
fame adjacent. When you're actually famous, there's people want to curry favor with you, so they're always telling you something like, "Oh, the Beatles heard your album; they think it's great," or
Sure.
Or, hey, have you heard this new song about you that uses your name? Let me play it for you.
Yep. Yeah.
So Brian was aware of it. I doubt it was anything he ever thought of performing.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was like, okay, there was a conversation, and Brian said, yeah, okay, that'd be cool. And it's a great little piece that transitions into, one of the most heartbreaking songs of all, "Till I Die."
Yeah, I know.
And,
It's a perfect. It's just so perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was a lot of that, and Brian was, when touring first came up as an idea, it was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And then, as he got used to the idea of it, he had played a few dates in the '90s with the Wonderments, a few charity shows. And he had played a couple of things on his own, but he wasn't going to go on the road. So when the band was put together, and they're a bunch of great Chicago players merged, who had been on his album in Imagination, and the Wonderments, when they all came together, it was not an instant marriage.
Okay. It took work, huh?
Darian and Nick and Probe and everybody are like kind of eyeing these guys like, who are these guys? And do they understand how great and important Brian Wilson is?
Yes, do no harm. That's right. Yeah.
And they eventually, it's pretty soon after they started rehearsals, they went out to a big dinner, and they kind of connected. But Darian was the guy, because there was a producer who played on the first tour. He was gone by the time of the Roxy shows. But he was like, let's modernize these arrangements. Let's make them contemporary, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah. God Only Knows is a different kind of vibe on this. Yeah.
Well, he wanted to play the songs almost like, smooth, almost like yacht rock, smooth jazz kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
And Darian said, if you're going to do that, I'm out of here.
Oh.
We're either doing it the way Brian created it, or we're not.
Okay.
So he made his stand, and that's so Brian had people on his side who were like, okay, I got it. You're on my side.
It's that unconditional love that you. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like he really. I mean, I know the stories have been told, and that he suffered from a variety of things, but it really seems like he just had a lack of confidence in some ways.
Well, he had enormous confidence until it was beaten out of him, essentially.
Fair. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, you guys don't want to do what I'm doing. Go do it yourself. You think it's so easy? mean, that was kind of his attitude. I'm going to
Yeah.
take my ball and go home. You go write the songs and make the albums. Good luck.
Good. Yeah. How about it, guys? Yeah. Yeah.
But so in 1995 when he reemerged with he had recorded an album called Orange Crate Art, a terrific album. Songs by Van Dyke Parks, all the vocals by Brian. And at the same time, there was a new documentary, and I was at an interview, and a reporter says, "So why are you suddenly coming back into the world?" And he said, "I have emotional security."
Oh.
This is not complicated. He just said it. He says the truth, and he was referring to his recent marriage to Melinda.
Yep.
And so he felt he had somebody who would fight for him.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I think that's something that everyone it's good for everyone to pursue and hopefully find. Yeah.
Well, as a person, you want to have a partner. As an artist, you need to have somebody who believes in you, whether it's a manager or an agent or a gallery owner or a publisher, whatever it is. Somebody who thinks that what you're doing is worthwhile. And
as a member of a band, you need that from your bandmates too. Because I've been there, and I think most musicians, it's if you play long enough, you wind up in a scenario where you at least believe, whether it's true or not, you start to believe that person doesn't have trust in me. And then that can shake your confidence. Speaking from experience, can shake my confidence in a second. As soon as I think that somebody doesn't trust me to do what I'm there to do. I mean, I love collaborating, and I love playing something and having somebody say, "Hey, you could do that," or "There's a mistake there." Fine, great, no problem, or even if it wasn't a mistake, try it differently. Like, I love all of that, but when there's not that mutual trust,
that usually happens after the hits.
After the hits,
whenever has the copyrights on the hits and is making more money than the rest of the band, suddenly bands start to.
It's true. I look at the bands that have longevity in their careers, and bands where you never heard about any of that infighting, and almost all of them have adopted the same policy, or chose to adopt what effectively is the same policy very early on, before the money started rolling in. And that policy, and I'm thinking about bands like REM and Rush.
REM was absolutely
famously, right? Rush was the same way, where they decided, look, we're either going to succeed or fail together. And so we're just going to split all of the royalties, equally amongst each band member. And right now it's worth zero. So everybody good? Everybody said, yep. And then as it started coming in, at the very least, they didn't have internal pressure, because there's, as you were saying before, when you're famous, there's all this external pressure. Some of it is good, some of it is sort of neutral, and some of it's bad, but all of it's pressure. And you need to have a moat around, like, that separates your band from that pressure. And if you've got pressure within, it's not going to succeed.
It's tough whether you're a family band who aren't related by blood, or a family band that is blood. I spent a lot of time working with the Bee Gees.
Sure, yeah.
I would guess that almost like right after their first hit in '67, there were people whispering in Barry Gibb's ear, "You look like Prince Valiant. Why don't you go out and be a star on your own?"
Yeah.
And he never did. His brothers left the group.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He never did.
Yeah, it's managing the pressure of fame or success.
Barry called it, "Can you survive first fame?"
Yes. Yes, there you go. I like that. That's the right term. Yeah. Yeah, it's and it sadly happens to so many bands. I mean, like rock and roll history is just full of them. The ones that survive it are the exception, and like I said, they most of
are the ones worth talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Beach Boys are worth talking about, and they didn't quite survive it. So,
well,
the Beatles didn't survive it. They're worth talking about.
Well, they survived it to make a final statement.
That's true. That fair. Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
and a beautiful statement. I mean, how much better is and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. You can't get any better than that. Okay,
No.
Guys, good. Love you. Good luck.
Yeah, but the band didn't survive decades. It was imploding as that happened.
Yeah, internally, yes, but and this is a horrible word to use, but the great Beatles historian Mark Lewison said the 21st century is when the Beatles went from being a band to a brand.
For sure. The Beatles are a brand for sure.
Yeah. And here we are. Over 50 years since they broke up, and here comes a remake of the Beatles anthology on Disney Plus soon, and
that's right.
A whole bunch of here's a vinyl box set of it's there's I'm a boomer, so they are my religion.
Oh, I am not a boomer, and they are also my religion. So we're on the Beatles here. I want to hear about this class that you take called the Reel Beatles. Or that you teach? Sorry, not that you take. But what is this class? Let's.
The idea of the class is in 10 weeks for the students who are 18, 19, 20 years old to experience the time before there were Beatles to today.
Ah, okay.
And to experience it, we listen to all the music, but this is not a musical analysis class because I couldn't do that. I say, look, my favorite Beatles song is "Hey Jude." It doesn't matter. So what? Your Beatles song can be whatever it is.
Doesn't matter.
We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we saw the Beatles. So it's REEL.
Yes.
And there is. It could be a 20-week class because there's so many documentaries and so many TV appearances and interviews. So back to my early days in television, I'm the curator. What are the things we need to see during the 10 weeks? So obviously, Hard Day's Night and Help and Let It Be and
those are such weird characterizations of the Beatles. Each of those in their own right.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
but because I don't want to stand at a lectern for 3 hours.
Yes.
I get guests. So it's kind of like Between Two Ferns or Inside the Actors Studio.
Sure.
Who's been a guest in my class? Peter Asher.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I kind of came up with a policy like if you either worked with the Beatles or you worked with one of the Beatles, you can be in the class as a guest because you're talking from firsthand experience. Michael Lindsay Hogg has been a guest every year.
Sure.
Well, he's talking about directing Beatles videos and Let It Be. I interviewed Peter Jackson when Get Back came out. So people are hearing it from the horse's mouth. From
the source. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I like that. That's really, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So it sounds like this class really digs into sort of the cultural impact at some level of the Beatles, the visual version of the how they impacted the culture visually. Yeah.
Socio-political, cultural.
Yeah.
Because, we'll show a film like mine, the U.S. versus John Lennon. And we'll see what the heck's that all about?
Yeah.
We'll see the first Beatles documentaries that were made in the 60s when they came to America. We'll see their first television appearance from 62 in the provinces in England. We'll see the first color film that was shown in a movie theater of the Beatles in 63 performing.
Amazing.
We'll see them sort of insult the Queen when they perform at the Royal Variety Show. So we'll again, this class could be 100 hours. I've got to narrow it down.
Yeah, for sure.
And so the Beatles anthology is a big part of doing that, because okay, we've now spent time seeing how other people presented the Beatles. Let's see how the Beatles wanted to tell the story themselves. What's the contrast between those two things?
Yeah.
And there's just, like I said, there's just a staggering amount of material. If you go to Google and hit Beatles and
Oh.
it says video, you can spend a week.
Oh yeah. It would be almost unlimited. Yeah, as far as our human ability to consume, which is a limit we have been taxing in the last decade, I think you'd probably still never run out of things to watch about the Beatles. So
nope.
Yeah.
I could teach an entire. There's so much Paul McCartney video. I could teach an entire class on Paul.
For sure.
Because he's, he's like the ever-ready Energizer Bunny of rock and roll. He just goes and goes and goes.
He just goes. And there was a shift at some point in the last decade-ish, maybe decade and a half, where Paul seemed to. He's always loved being Paul McCartney.
He embraced the Beatles.
He embraced the Beatles. Well, the way I perceived it, and this was especially true watching the thing that came out during COVID with Rick. Why can't I think of his name off the top of my head? Rick Rubin. Thank you. Where it was very clear that Paul was as much a fan of the Beatles as Rick was. Like this was two Beatles fans enjoying Beatles music, and it turns out one of them was there when it was recorded, and so had some context to offer, which was great.
Paul calls himself the world's biggest Beatles fan.
But he doesn't just call himself that. I think he actually is. Like, he truly is a fan of this. He's far enough away from it now, temporally. Yeah.
Well, he had to prove that he could do it.
Yes.
himself.
Yes.
And I've seen him, I don't know, close to 20 times in concert, something like that. So I've seen each iteration of the tour, and I saw the moment where he said, "Okay, I've now proved it. I can now bring a whole bunch of Beatles songs into the concert."
Well, and Lennon songs too. Like, I think when I saw him play A Day in the Life, it was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, this is starting to. There's a crack in the armor, and then I think the next tour he opened the show with 8 Days a Week, which effectively has Abe on drums singing the lead and Paul just singing a harmony along with that.
He opened this tour. He opens with Help.
There you go. Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. No, he has embraced the whole catalog as it's all fair game because he's a fan of the Beatles. Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
I don't think he's playing Tomorrow Never Knows or Within You Without You.
Fair. we for our portion of the Sgt. Pepper show that we're doing next week, we also chose not to play Within You Without You because of time, but we swapped in Strawberry Fields there, which
that's not a fair swap.
But it was supposed to be on the record.
That is so much. God bless George. That is so much a better, more experimental, more interesting, great song. And I forget who said it. Somebody in the Beatles world once said to me, "Yes, when we played Sgt. Pepper, we turned over the album and we started on track 2."
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Now, at the time, because I'm now old enough to have been there when I heard it for the first time in '67 and remember it, you just played it and you turned it over and you played it and you were in this other world.
It is another world. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going back to the topic at hand, Mr. Wilson, that's what he was doing. That's what Pet Sounds was. That's what Smile was supposed to be. He was as ambitious as anybody on the planet. And so when that ambition was stifled, snuffed out, whatever, look, I've written a number of books about it. I've made a documentary about it. If you want to Google Beautiful Dreamer, Brian Wilson and the Story of Smile, you can see him telling the story. But
I'll put a link in the show notes, folks.
To me, what I say when people ask me a question, I say just listen to the music, and that's why this Live at the Roxy box is so great, because it's right at the beginning of a solo career, and I'll make an argument that I'll probably never win, that he should be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist
by himself.
because
Interesting.
of what he did during the period that begins with this Roxy show, followed by the Pet Sounds Live, followed by the Smile Live, followed by a brand new rock opera called That Lucky Old Sun, followed by a Gershwin album, a whole bunch of solo albums in there, ending with a real elegy album at my piano, where he plays his favorite songs of his own at the piano with no vocals. I was stunned the first time I heard it, because I was expecting him to be singing the songs. And so the first time I went through, I was like, well, that's disappointing. The second time through, I realized, okay, this is him saying goodbye.
Playing the songs without his voice there. Interesting. Yeah. Fascinating. David, thank you. This has been wonderful to kind of dig through all this stuff. Thank you for sharing all of your little insights, and it's great. I like it.
My pleasure. My classes are 3 hours, so this was just a
this is just a warm up, man.
Yeah, this is just a chat.
Just a chat. Well, there are many facets of your career, many things that you have done that we either didn't touch on at all or barely skimmed over. So it would be a pleasure and an honor to have you back at some point, and we'll dig into more rock and roll history. It's definitely something that we all love here. So yeah.
Anytime.
Amazing.
I'm proud of the work I did, and naturally love talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, as well you should be. Yeah, for sure. I think it's great. Is there anything that said, is there anything that we missed before we wrap up here that you really want to make sure we share today?
Well, the two books that I've published in the last couple of years. This year was Smile: The Rise, Fall, and Resurrection of Brian Wilson, which tells the entire Smile story.
Okay.
It's really it's an oral history, so it's told by the people who were there. It's as if you were sitting in a room surrounded by a couple of dozen people, and each one is going to tell a piece of the story, and it's going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
So you're going to kind of get whiplash as you're looking around to see who's talking next.
I like it.
And that includes, Brian's in there, and people who are no longer with us are in there, and it's all, primary sources. It's people who know what they're talking about.
Right. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And then back in 2022, the reissue of the Beach Boys and the California Myth with a massive update. The update was actually more than half the length of the original book.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. All right. Okay.
And so, if you know anybody who's a Brian Wilson person and can read and likes to read.
So I think that Venn diagram is pretty much just a circle. So I think we're okay. Yeah.
But those are the two most recent things.
Yeah, great. I will make sure that we have links to those in the show notes here at giggabpodcast.com for everybody listening. Yeah.
Buy Live at the Roxy. It allows you to be with Brian Wilson in a way that you just can't be anymore.
It is so good, and the mix on the reissue. It sounds fantastic. It's really, really well done. It's all blended perfectly, so you can hear everything that you want to hear, but you also can hear it as just this cohesive whole.
Yeah, you mentioned going back to revisit it today before we spoke. When I went back to revisit it before I started talking about it,
yeah,
I was stunned at how good it was, because I had through the years, particularly the last half dozen years of his touring, Brian singing
wasn't what it was.
It wasn't what it was as he hit his late 70s, early 80s.
It happens.
And so this is a reminder of him, as he's hitting the first peak of his rebirth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite, you can hear the vulnerability in his voice simultaneous with the confidence of it in a lot of these moments. It's really, yeah. And it was well produced, this record. It includes enough of Brian's candor with the crowd to really
He's
to bring you in. He's hilarious.
That's the thing about this. What this allows you to do is experience what it would be like to just be hanging out with him, because he's just talking, because the Roxy is so small that he could look out and see friends and family. So he's just talking as if he's in a small room. So Mark Lynette should get great credit for recording and mixing it, and Mark London should get great credit for this great design that he's done.
I agree. Yeah, and I mean even the transition that we talked about before, that disc 2 starts with this. And I'm sorry to ruin it for those of you that haven't heard it, because it really is kind of a nice surprise when you aren't expecting it to hear it, but that's how life goes. But the transition from Bare Naked Ladies' Brian Wilson segment into Till I Die, as the band makes the modulation in, he says, now we don't want to put you to sleep, or something to that effect. Like, we're going to play some slow stuff, so, stay awake. And it's really funny. Just hearing him say that, it's like, no one's going to fall asleep.
Yeah. Sometimes he was intentionally funny, sometimes unintentionally funny.
Yes.
But he loved to laugh. He loved to make people laugh. And, of course, he loved to make people feel with his music what he was feeling. Yes. This will do it for you.
Yeah. No, it was really captured very well. So I recommend a listen or a re-listen, folks, if it's been a little while. It's really well done. David, thank you. Where, if people want to, I know we've got links in the show notes here for all the work that you've mentioned, but if people want to follow your work, is your website, leafprod.com, the best place?
Website, yes.
Okay. I will put that in there too. So, yeah. Thanks for doing this. Very anywhere else that people should go if they want to follow you, or is leafprod.com the place?
I'm at Facebook, but
okay.
I'm just a regular Facebook person. But
got it. Yeah, I understand. Well, thanks for being a.
Facebook is where I would post something about a new release or
sure. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll put that in there too. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you for being a regular person with us here today, David. Really, really fun.
My pleasure, Dave. Stay warm.
I will try. There are 3 words that are a little motto, if I will, that we've been saying to our listeners for a decade plus now. I'm happy to say them, but it would truly be my honor if you would just, however you'd like to deliver those 3 words, we would all love to hear it from you.
One of the things I've learned in my work is that in many ways, life is a performance. So always be performing.
There it is. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. Thanks for listening, folks. giggabpodcast.com, where you can get all the show notes with the links. You can have them emailed to you if you like. David Leaf, thank you so much. What a pleasure. It's great getting to know you and getting to chat. Yeah. Take it easy, folks. We'll see you next week. Matt Musty up next week.